Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing a review on the Vali Lotus Cobra bag. So check it out. Okay guys, so before I do the review of the Cobra bag, I'll give you a quick close-up. Starting from the top, you do have the foam-filled ball that has a rubberized texture on the exterior. Dimensions-wise is about 7 inches in diameter and about 10 inches in height. The pros of a foam-filled ball is that you don't have to worry about inflating a bladder. The drawback is that it is a little bit heavier, so it's not as responsive and snappy as some of the bladder-filled bags like the Lotus Cobra bag from Vali, as well as Fierce Reflex, Lotus, and whatever other brand that uses a bladder Cobra ball. Coming down, you do have a foam collar that a lot of other brands use to cover the actual machine screws that go in here to protect your gloves or your hands, depending on what you're punching it with. It does have full steel construction with the spring that is welded at the top as well as the bottom. The spring on here does have a good amount of spacing between each one of the coils, so it's definitely more responsive than like the ringside Cobra bag or even the Tidal. Definitely not as responsive as the Lotus or the Fierce Reflex. I'd say it's kind of in between that when it comes to the actual snappiness of the spring. So you do have that full steel spring that is welded at the bottom. You also have the steel pole that has the holes for the height adjustment. You have the height adjustment knob that unscrews and tightens, and it's actually spring loaded, so you basically pull on it and then it pulls the pin out. And then coming down to the very bottom, this is a suction cup base. So it does have, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 suction cups, which use just a hex bolt with a cap on top, and then you do have 4 more of those bolts that bolts this portion to the base itself. What I usually do is, you'll notice that my floor actually has kind of the imprints of the suction cups, is I add water. I put a little bit of water to moisten it, and that helps the base stick to my garage floor better when it's moist. So there you have it. Let's go ahead and do the full review. Hey, what's up guys? Carlo here. Today I'm doing a review on the Vali Lotus Cobra bag. This retails for $175 on their website. This is a foam ball style Cobra bag with a full steel construction and a suction cup base. At its maximum height setting, you can get it as tall as 65 inches, which is to the top of the ball, and about as short as 4 feet. So you do have a spring loaded locking mechanism that you can twist and turn to lock the Cobra bag into place. So there it is at the lowest setting. For reference, I am 5'8", so you can use my height as a reference in terms of how tall I am compared to this bag on its shortest setting. On its highest setting, again, it is at about 65 inches, locks into place, and then you just turn the knob to lock it in place. And again, I'm 5'8", which is 68 inches, so I'm about 3 inches taller than the top of the Cobra bag. So for me, being 5'8", it's actually a perfect height. Now, for somebody that's a lot taller than me, it probably won't be the best because you're going to be really tall and you'll be punching down towards the bag. Someone shorter, perfectly fine, because you can adjust it and it will be in that height range for you. The only thing is, if you're somebody that's taller, maybe someone that's bigger than say 6 feet, probably the best alternative is to find like an elevated platform to somehow stick this bag onto, that way you get a little bit more height out of it. So that is kind of the drawback, is the height adjustment that only allows for that. Earlier when I showed you guys a close-up of the bag, it is about 7 inches in diameter and about 10 inches in height. It is a foam-filled bag, so it is convenient in the fact that you don't have to use a rubber bladder or a latex bladder and use a pump to inflate it. The drawback to that though is that the bag is definitely heavier and is not as snappy and responsive as a bladder style bag like Fierce Reflex, the Vali Nista bag, Lotus, and whatever brand uses an inflatable bag. So you kind of lose a little bit of that speed pop that snappiness out of a bladder style bag. The pro to this though is that because it is a foam bag and it weighs more, it takes more force to get this ball to move. So you have to punch it with more power to get the ball to get more speed and snap. And because of that, I find myself getting a little bit better of a workout. Like I tend to get my heart rate up quicker and end up sweating more because I'm kind of having to punch the bag harder than I typically would with, say, like the Fierce Reflex or the Vali or my Q-less bag. So there is always some pros and cons to that when it comes to that style of bag. I did show you the foam collar, all steel construction, as well as a steel spring. The spring on here is pretty responsive. It's definitely not as stiff as like the ringside or the Tidal boxing one, but it's definitely not as snappy as the Q-less KS3 or KS2 spring, or even the Fierce Reflex. The Fierce Reflex and those Q-less springs, if you look at them, the coils have larger gaps, and it really allows for the Cobra bag to really snap and just, you know, go back and forth and rebound much quicker. And I say this one's kind of in between those two. The base of this, again, pros and cons, is suction cup. Now, the great thing about the suction cup base is that you don't have to use any type of plastic water-filled, sand-filled base, which can be cumbersome because you have to fill it with water or sand, and then you have to roll it, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to move around. Nor do you have to anchor this in to the floor. You could technically, if you wanted to use anchors and go to like Home Depot or your hardware store and get yourself concrete anchors and rivet it into the ground, completely up to you, but you don't need to. You have the suction cups. The bad thing about having a suction cup is that it requires for you to have a smooth, flat surface. If you live somewhere where you only have carpet, or the surface that you're working on is textured, or if you use concrete is porous, the suction cups will not work. So that is the big drawback with having a suction cup base. I do think that kind of reflects in the price, being that it's only $175. So from a price perspective, that is a really nice deal, considering a lot more of the other Cobra bags are like $300, $400, $500 and up. So in terms of affordability, I do like that. But keep in mind, suction cups, if you do not have a surface to mount it to, your only alternative is going to be to either use anchors. And the very last alternative is, this is the big one, you can actually put Olympic weights on this. So if you were to remove the pole, you can actually unscrew that. You could take out the knob, and the center of an Olympic weight plate, you can actually slide it over the base pole and put it over the base. So that's a great alternative as well. One thing about doing that, it tends to be kind of clanky and noisy if you use Olympic plates, especially if you stack like 3 45-pound plates on each other. So it's always a good idea to get maybe like a piece of rubber or a piece of carpet in between each plate, so that it kind of gives it a little bit of a barrier, so that the metal doesn't, it's not metal on metal contact, and it doesn't make a lot of rattling sounds and metal to metal clanking while you work on the bag. So that is a great alternative as well, is if you don't have a floor where the suction cups will work and you're on a carpeted surface, then you can essentially remove the suction cups, just unscrew them and put a couple of weight plates on it. The other cool thing about this bag is that it's relatively lightweight and mobile. So you can see I just popped the suction cups off, but after I pop it off, I can literally lift this Cobra bag with one arm, with one hand. So in terms of mobility, it's really nice. And then just pop it back into place. I did use water again on the suction cups. The water gives it a better seal. If you try to put the suction cups on the surface and the suction cups are really dirty, then you're not gonna create like good suction and seal. So whenever I use the bag, where I move it around, the floor is a little bit dirty, I will put a little bit of water on there to create a good seal. I'll just spray the water hose on the ground outside. I'll kind of dip the suction cups in that water and then stick it to my garage floor. And then it makes the base pretty stable. In terms of performance, again, I would say that this bag isn't the most responsive, but is also not the slowest. You know, like the Fierce Reflex and the Q-less are like a 5 out of 5 when it comes to speed. And like the ringside and the Tidal are like more of like a 2 out of 5. I would probably say that this is like a 3.5 out of 5 when it comes to speed and responsiveness. So you can see for yourself, just looking at the bag, try to give you guys a good angle. You know, you could get a good amount of rebound. You can still work your head movement. Obviously, it's not as snappy as the others I mentioned that have those bladder style bags, but it still works really well. And again, I got a great workout with this. If you do even 4 to 6 rounds, you know, 3-minute rounds, it serves its purpose. And you can see that the suction cups actually do a really good job of staying in place. And again, if you need that extra weight and security to make sure that the bag doesn't move around, you can also put, you can always put weight plates on top of it. So overall, in the end, I've had this Cobra bag for a few months now, and I actually started to really enjoy using this together with my keyless bag. And what I like about this is the fact that I have a slick garage floor, 1. And 2, it's really easy for me to move around. I do have their Nista that has water in the base, and that can be kind of a pain in the ass to move around. And that the inflatable bags, especially in the Arizona heat in the summertime, they tend to leak out. So having this foam ball is nice in the fact that I don't have to constantly worry about reinflating it or buying new bags. And I think the biggest thing about this is the price point, $175. I don't think you're gonna find a better Cobra bag of this style, a foam-filled Cobra bag that has, you know, the steel construction, doesn't feel cheap, has a really good spring, has good height adjustment, and the suction cups work really well at this price point of $175. I think this is probably one of the better bags out there in this price point for the features that it has. So if you are watching this and you do have like a slick floor, garage floor, kitchen floor, whatever floor you may have, I definitely think this is better than some of the other options, but just because it does a really good job and it's really easy to move around. And again, it's priced right. So if you guys have any questions or comments, you guys know what to do, put them down below. I'll put the link in the description box where you can find this Vali Lotus Cobra bag. I'll see you guys later. Peace.